Yo, what's good guys? It's Jacob here. In today's video we're going to talk about why it's important to show up authentic, especially when you don't want to show up at all. This is about the days when you feel like shit and you're like, I don't want to go to work, I don't want to meet that person, I don't want to leave my bed today, yet I'm going to do it anyway. And here's about how we can transform the days like that to potentially being the best days in our life. And it's going to come from a personal story in my life. I'm going to take you in deep inside the mind, the life, the reality of Jacob Sokol, and how what we just spoke about there, how that applies and how I've lived that, and how, if you read last week's post, doing this conference and I'm speaking with world-class thinkers about the topics that I'm most passionate about and potentially making a huge difference in other people's lives, right? So here's how that came to be. You may be wondering, how did that happen? Here's how that came to be. Well, let's rewind a little bit, let's backtrack, let's hold it up and let's go back to the beginning of this year. In the beginning of this year, I decided to take a trip around the world, a Centipede World Tour, here we come, baby. And I left home. I left home for a couple months and I figured, okay, it's a lot cheaper to grow my business in some of the most tropical, exotic, dope places in the world than it is to live in New York, where it's a ton of money, and I'm born and raised in New York, so while I love New York, at the same time, I'm like, here's a perfect opportunity to be in alignment with my values, grow my business, and have a ton of fun. What you guys may know that story, and you may not know that story, depending on how long you've been following Centipede, but what you probably don't know is that I left behind a girl that I was crazy about at the time. I mean, I was super passionately attracted to this girl on an intellectual level, on a physical level, on an emotional level, just sexually in all possible ways. This girl was rocking my world, and due to circumstances, I still decided to take this trip anyway. So I'm out, and the first stop that I make on this trip is California. I figure, alright, I'm heading west, I'm stopping Cali on my way to Asia. So I get to California and spend a couple weeks in San Diego, and I make my way up to LA, and I say to this girl, I say, hey, like, what's up, let's meet up. And we had been chatting a little bit, and she decides, alright, I'm going to come visit Jacob in LA. So beautiful. I'm looking forward to this moment. I'm like, every day, every week leading up to it, I'm thinking about, oh man, this is going to be awesome, I can't wait to see her, I miss holding her, so on and so forth. And simultaneously, Brian Johnson, he also lives not far from LA. So I say, hey, boom, when I'm in LA, one, this girl's going to come join me for that time, and two, I'm going to set up a meeting with Brian and see if I can hang out with Brian for a little while. Genius mastermind plan, alright, boom, here we go. So what happens? So coincidentally, her flight arrives 2 hours before my meeting with Brian. And I'm like, alright, cool, well, what do I do? I'm like, basically, do you want to come with me to see Brian? She happens to be a rock star, she's somewhat of a philosopher herself, and I'm thinking, okay, boom, that could work. And she's like, no, cool. So I'm waiting for her at the hotel, and I'm like, alright, cool. Basically the time is ticking until, one, she shows up, and two, I have potentially one of the biggest meetings of my life with Brian. And boom, here I am, and I'm waiting for her to show up. And I'm at the hotel, and I've spent a ton of time doing a ton of research about where to stay, and I've poured my heart into it, and I'm trying to figure out all these things to make it the perfect experience. And I get a text from her basically saying, she's not coming. And I'm like, what? She's not coming? Like, what do you mean you're not coming? And apparently, whatever, we just blew up. Like, she blew up at me at that point. She fucking took the flight to LA, gets to LA, and then doesn't show up to the hotel. And mind you, this is 2 hours before potentially the biggest meeting of my life with the guy who's made the biggest impact. It's not that it's the biggest meeting, like, the world is going to be over if I don't show up, but it's a big meeting, and like, here's the dude who's most inspired me, who I'm most excited to meet, and the girl who I care most about stands me up like 2 hours before this meeting with him. So I'm like, yo, like, this is like ridiculous. And I was livid. I was vexed, I was heated. Like, I'm not an angry dude, I'm not the type of dude who really gets pissed off. I'm pretty good at stepping in between that stimulus and that response. I fucking lost it. I was just vexed. And I'm like, alright, well, what the hell do I do? Like, how do I deal with this? I gotta show up anyway. So I'm walking from one place in Santa Monica to the place where I ultimately end up getting lunch with Brian, or tea with Brian. And I'm like, yo, how do I show up to this? How do I do this? And I'm like focusing on my breathing, I I could remember being there waiting for him, and I'm just thinking about my breathing, and like just focusing on that. And Brian shows up, and it's clearly that I'm like clearly uncontrollably pissed off. And it's like, I show up anyway though, and we start talking and we kick it, and there's instant rapport. And Brian tells me about some stuff he's working on some, you know, this new idea of potentially doing a virtual conference for this person and that person. And okay, cool. And he's like, so what's up with you? You sent me some books that you got from this girl you've been dating. Why don't you know, what's up? You're dating a new girl right now? And I'm like, B, you have no idea. You have no idea. I'm like, dude, she just stood me up, and I'm just like, I'm like, listen, I gotta be completely authentic with you. I gotta be real, because it's going on right now in my life, and it's affecting me emotionally, and I just want to raise consciousness to that energy that I'm feeling right now. This is what's happening. Here's one way I'm looking at it. Here's another way I'm looking at it. Here's how I'm dealing with it. Here's the situation. And he just, you know, he chilled there and he listened to me and it didn't judge me and he didn't really offer any specific guidance. He just kind of let me be me. And the conversation continued on, and then it rolled around and I started telling him about how I was really excited to have read this book it was a sociology book which this chick actually gave to me. And I'm really excited because it speaks about what's going on in our generation and the demographic and how we feel like there's a really big gap between where we currently are, our current accomplishments, and our ambitions, and that we feel really powerless because we feel entitled to these glamorous, glorious visions of, you know, living a fulfilled and an awesome life, yet we're at this place right now where we're not living that. And I spoke a little bit more about what's going on, raised in this culture of entitlement, and, you know, we feel powerless, we feel anxious, we feel overwhelmed, and we feel isolated, we feel like nobody can possibly understand what we're going through. And the point is, you know, I'm getting really passionate about it. And here's the key distinction. I'm a passionate dude as is. You know, I'm like over here, you know, bursting out tears of sweat, you know, just getting excited talking about what I'm talking about. This is me in a normal state. Imagine me when I'm like fucking livid, when I'm pissed, right? And now I'm not pissed at Brian, but I still have all that energy inside of me, all this like tremendous, turbulent energy that an hour ago was anger, and now it's passion. So I'm speaking about subjects which I'm normally passionate about, but I'm like 5 times X. It's like my passion is like multiplied by 5 times, and I'm just going at it, and I'm just venting about like, yeah, you know, I'm really excited to use this wisdom that is in this book, or use this understanding in this book to help serve my coaching clients, so I can really understand what's going on with them from a sociological perspective, from an academic, researched, empirical data understanding of here's what's happening as a culture. I've been through that myself. I know what that intuitively feels like. I know how I've navigated out of that. And here's the broader perspective. And I'm getting really passionate talking to Brian about this subject. And being that Brian is this genius serial entrepreneur, he's like, dude, you want to do a conference on that? And I'm like, what do you mean? You know, I'm not getting it. He's like, dude, like, why don't what you're talking about right now, why don't you create a conference based on that? Would you be up for that? And I'm not getting it. I'm like, B, what do you, like, you know, because I've always, my relationship with Brian has been friend, you know, but more so mentor, and I look up to him and his work and his peers, and what he's basically saying is, hey, let's partner, let's work hand in hand, I'll produce the virtual conference, you go out, you interview your favorite possible people in the world, I'll coach you, I'll mentor you on interviewing them, on getting in touch with them, anybody I know, let me know, I'll put you in contact with them, and you'll ask them questions based on exactly what you're telling me about, and that you're interested in, and you serve as the representation of your generation. And I couldn't believe it. Like, it still took me time to process going from, you know, this one relationship that I had with him to being like, yo, you want to work together on the things that you're most passionate about with world-class thinkers while potentially making a huge impact in young adults' lives? Like, it blew my mind. So, whatever, the chat wrapped up and I left the chat, and I just remember feeling like, oh my God, in the course of 2 hours, I went from feeling as bad as I could possibly feel to as good as I could possibly feel. Literally, this was back in February. And I've been working on this project ever since. I just finished an interview right now. That's the 10th interview. We're going to do 50 interviews. This conference is going to fucking rock. And anyway, I'm getting a little excited about it here, but back then I remember thinking, holy shit, I showed up. Like, what's the lesson here, right? What can we get from this right here? I showed up One, when I was in probably my worst possible state. I showed up for the thing that was most important to me. Could be anything, but I showed up in my worst possible state. I showed up authentically. I showed up and I shared with stuff that I cared about. I shared my passion. I shared my core stuff. And I did it in a way that represented who I was, what I was going through, what I cared about, and just basically myself. So, because I showed up, and it came from a place of me being pissed, and I had all that energy in me, that energy translated into passion. And that passion ultimately is what Brian saw in me that was like, yeah, that right there, that's marketable. We could do something with that. We could take that there, we could package that up, we could affect a ton of people's lives with that and with what he's talking about right now, and we can make something out of this. And he saw me in my best possible light. So that's the story. That's how this conference that I'm working on came to be. Ultimately, later on that day, I went back to the potential hotel I was going to sleep at. I took my bag. I got on a 2-hour bus ride. I went through LA and I ended up sleeping at a friend's hotel room on the floor that night. Like, I was just, if you had a film crew following me around, this is the stuff movies are made of. And this is my life. This is the extraordinary life. The downs which exist, and then figuring out how to take those downs and how to alchemize them into something that creates a conference like this or creates an extraordinary experience and moment. So, you know, what did you get from this video? How can you remember this video when it's done? Where's one time in your life that you've experienced something similar where you felt like shit, you showed up anyway, and at the end of the day, turned out to be a marvelous thing? And remember it the next time you're feeling like shit, you don't want to show up to something. Show up, be yourself, be authentic, and take it from there. And of course, if this resonates with you and you want to do some one-on-one work with me, or you want to do some coaching, or you want to take this relationship to the next level, it's what I'm about, it's what I'm here to do, I'd love to work with you. So hit me up, shoot me an email, jacob@sensophy.com. Alright, we'll talk soon. Peace.